My view about immigration, I have many views about it, uh, but before I go there, let me I'll confirm this. I had a conversation with a first generation Mexican immigrant this weekend, and she was apoplectic about the illegal, what she called the illegal invasion in the South.
Right.
Her mother lives in Mexico and goes back and forth, but didn't think this was the America that she wanted to be a part of. My grandmother was an immigrant from Ireland in the 30s. She grew up being terrorized by British forces, by the Black and Tans. She
Right.
had
Right.
serious, a broad Catholic. She was a cleaning lady for priests. And yet she was the most fervent Tory you ever came across. She
Yeah.
would gather me at the end of the Labour Party conference. I remember she would always say to me, "Do you know what they sing at the end of the Labour Party conference, Andrew?" I'd be like, "No, Grandma, what is it?" "They sing the red flag. They sing the red flag." And and there you had immigrant Toryism. That in some
Yeah.
ways, some new immigrants attach particularly to a kind of idealized version of the country. And when they see that disappearing, they're as upset about this as old stick in the muds.
Yeah, I'd say I'm sort of half Jewish, quarter Latino, quarter Chinese, and I sort of had, and both my parents are immigrants to Canada, and you find something similar. I mean, there's never really many books written on assimilation or assimilated immigrant. That's a sort of group that you rarely see studied or their attitudes portrayed. And yeah, I think it's an important sentiment. It's one of the reasons why I think a lot of the pundits were blindsided by the Asian and Latino Trump vote. And certainly within academic circles, simply refused to acknowledge it first time round in 2016. And it's only now, when it's happened twice, and it's pretty undeniable, that they think, oh, okay, but I don't know any of these people. So,
Right. They also misread the attitudes of legal immigrants with respect to illegal immigration. That they are often the most upset about it, partly because newly immigrated people are the people most likely to be affected in the employment workplace by brand new ones undercutting their wages. But also because they probably spent, and God help me, I know this personally, a lot of time and money and hours trying to get through the maze that is becoming an American citizen. It's an
right.
incredibly laborious, difficult, and costly process that if by the end of it, you're just relieved you even got through it at all. And then when people just walk across the border and claim asylum fraudulently and they're here forever, of course people are going to get pissed off about that.
Well, yeah, but I think that there's a deeper question here, which is really around ethnic attachment per se, where in the progressive worldview, and this goes really back to kind of the early 20th century, that with the young intellectuals in Greenwich Village, people like Randolph Bourne, who were WASPs themselves, and they were repudiating their Anglo-Protestant ethnicity, saying you should be cosmopolitan. But then they were trying to implore the immigrant groups, the Jews and others, to retain their culture, not to assimilate. So ethnicity, if you are a minority, is a great thing. Ethnicity, if you're a majority, is a terrible thing. That sort of dualism, I think, really lies at the heart, first, of multiculturalism, and even in increasingly of things such as, cancel white people. I mean, there were, this sort of anti-majoritarianism has a long history. And it sort of colors a lot of this analysis. And it's very interesting when you would occasionally see the hypocrisy exposed. So there was a piece that came out, I think, in the London Review of Books. Some journalist had gone over to the East End and found a fourth generation East Ender, and was fascinated by her story of being in the East End since the Jack the Ripper days and all of this sort of thing, until it got to immigrants and Brexit. And suddenly he realized that this was all part of the reason he was attracted to her, was her rootedness in community, but that was also the reason that she was sort of against large-scale immigration. And you can't really separate those two things. And yet, in a way, the sort of progressive left, what I call left modernists, have been able to sort of have their cake and eat it. They've been able to enjoy the fruits of other people's ethnic attachment while sort of repudiating anything that's expressed by their own group.